So, as I said at the beginning, and I have a video showing this, as you see at the beginning, I did not call it the LA riot. I'm not going to call it the LA riots because there's a reason why the newspaper, the media back then called it, and to this day, call it the LA riots. So, this is why I changed the name of it from riots to rebellion or riots to uprising.
I noticed in this episode that instead of calling it the Los Angeles riots or the Watts riots, as many people have since these events happened, we referred to them as uprisings and rebellions. As you've no doubt noticed in this series, the language that we use really matters. The word riot has often been used by many people to describe moments when Black people push back against the violence being enacted on them. And it has often been done to imply a certain level of chaos and mayhem and incoherence to what was transpiring. Quote, "The rioters were burning their city now, as the insane sometimes mutilate themselves," wrote a Los Angeles Times reporter on August 15, 1965, when talking about Watts. Part of what such language is meant to do is undermine the very real political dimension of the protest, which emerges from genuine grievance with the circumstances around them. So, in an effort to acknowledge the social and political forces shaping these events and the larger tradition of Black protest that they are a part of, describing these events as rebellions and uprisings, rather than riots, feels more accurate, more nuanced, and more responsible.
So, finally growing up, and I will always be the first to say that, I was not at the level that I am now when it comes to social political things. I remember it always being called the riots. I also remember a video, and I tried my best to find it, and I cannot find it, but it was put out, but it was put together so graciously because it was showing rebellions with Black people, and I would call it riots with predominantly white people who team won the championships or their sports team lost championships. If you look at the two videos, it's the same freaking chaos. Burning garbage cans, burning cars, kicking in windows, throwing rocks, and it's the exact same chaos. Now, you listen to the broadcasters, it's not the same thing. When it's the uprising, it's thugs. They're trash. They're dangerous. They're destructive. When it comes to the sports team, they're just so upset. They're just letting off steam. And the worst thing they could possibly even say, close to what they was trying to do, it just got a little bit out of hand. They're still trying to downplay it. So yeah, the visual is as important as the audio put towards it. Because even at one point in the video, like I said, I can't find it. The guy actually switched the audio. So the sports fans that was losing their mind, he gave him the Black Essential news anchor coverage of it, and onto the other side, and you can see that it really was no difference. Theus?
I mean, there's not much I can contribute at this particular point because I really haven't studied much as it comes to the riots, uprisings, whatever term we want to ascribe to it. I'm a Stokely Carmichael guy, so I do hold to the belief that I won't tell the aggrieved how to express their frustrations. So there's that piece, and then I view America as the evil empire that is out to harm its citizens whenever the needs of the citizens conflict with the image of the nation or the goals of its corporations. So, I mean, it's kind of like, can I really, when I view uh, something to be something, uh, when it behaves according to its nature, I can't really say I'm surprised.
True.
I
Anna?
don't see a lot of the value though in quibbling over riot versus uprising versus rebellion because I personally don't think rebellion fits the situation.
I wasn't that crazy about the uprising thing my own self though. I don't know why that word just doesn't become.
You'll get me more on uprising than you will rebellion because uprising is there's a force that are you're pretty much fed up with, and so you're reacting to it. But a rebellion is, I mean, it's just another way of saying revolt, right? It's much larger in scale, more sustained. Um, that's how I view a rebellion. Like you formed up and you're fighting this thing, as opposed to lashing out because you're just fed up in the moment.
Okay, Anna.
Yeah, I grew up with the word riot. Not quite, not quite sure on what word I would want to settle on without actually really looking at the definitions of them. So yeah, I'm just here learning as well. This is a faint memory. Happened when I was 11 years old in '92, and brand new learning about the '60s. So Marlon, you are muted now.
Look,
You're
you're
muted.
muted.
I tried to be nice and okay. Um, I'm still learning that everything seems to still be, and this I know everything way before '60s led up to situations in the '60s. But I just keep finding that every time I look up these stories, keep going back to the '60s. Like it's
I
something.
get it. I think the reason why we go back to the '60s is because it's when we have video footage. So, and also when a lot of our heroes that were more aggressive than their predecessors became known, right? Most of the struggle was done behind the scenes up until the 50s. And then in the 50s, it came into the light, but it had to be more genteel because of the terrorism that had always been occurring in the dark. So they had to be nicer about how they responded when they were the first ones to come out and respond in that manner. So your vanguard, your Martin Luther King type folks were nicer, more we just want to be with you. We just stop killing us, right? And then when you get into the 60s, you're looking at those who had survived the horrors of the 50s being in the streets, and then also the young children, now young adults, that are looking at it and they're saying, we literally watched the nice way. We're less patient now. You've had almost 20 years, 15 years to do better, and you refuse. And so like that I think that's why we go to the 60s because it's much more it feeds that part of us that wants to see more done. So you get your Black Panther Party because it's a rallying cry, right? for white America, they were fed an illusion of the Black Panther Party. These are gangsters and dangerous and and then on our side we're not taking any more junk, but we're not dangerous or violent. We just want to take care of our communities, but we're not going to sit here and be all nice with you while you're sitting here terrorizing us, right? So I think that's why we latch there. But if you look at things on a 30 to 40 year cycle, you'll get the 1920s. Like, so you got the 1890s, right? Where we had coming out of slavery and Reconstruction falling apart. And then you come into 1920s, and now you have like the first kind of lifting of the Black community, but still early in the Jim Crow era. So it's like our swing dancing, zoot suits. You know, you look back at it and you kind of think of it that way, the roaring 20s. But there was a lot of turmoil then. And then you get your 50s, that's 30 years forward. You get the birth of the civil rights movement. You move forward another 30 years out of the 60s. Now you're in the 90s. You got those riots. And then you move, it's like every 30 to 40 years, we have the next chapter unfold. And we're roughly 30 years out of the 90s. So it's time. I don't know why my phone is all small this time. I can't read anything.
I don't know why I keep forgetting to unmute myself. Tracy?
The more things change, the more they stay the same. That's pretty much all I have.
Because the nature of your enemy hasn't changed. Our understanding of our enemy should be changing, but it's not.
It's not.
It's the funniest thing. Our opponents continue to learn, to adapt, right? They're still executing the same plan, so to speak, but their tactics adjust every cycle. They get smoother, they get more I don't know the right words, but they get better at what they're doing. Like, they're doing a new Jim Crow right now, but it doesn't feel like we think it should feel. So we're not fighting it the way that we should fight it, because they're better at it right now. Meanwhile, we're still using the same tactics on our side. We haven't changed, and that's frustrating.
Alrighty. Oh, I did want to show this comment because Parker, you're right. Civil unrest is another term used in the news.